What would you say to a community like ours or any community going through this, that where the consciousness is so peaked right now and people just want to do something? It's parents, it's political figures, our government. We all have been meeting and talking and brainstorming, but
Yeah.
with all of your research and all of what you've seen across the world, if we were just an example of what you would want to take and implement, what would you advise us to do with all of this energy and this momentum going?
Well, the first thing I would do would be to get rid of the guns. And I'm Michael Bloomberg of New York City, and I are really the last gun control advocates in America. America is very pro-gun, and I accept that. But I don't accept all of this gun violence and all of these senseless deaths. In this case, a 14-year-old boy who, as you say, by all accounts, was a wonderful young man who had a bright future ahead of him. In other countries, guess what? There are angry young men as well. But they pick up a rock, they pick up a knife, and we have by far the highest rates of homicide in this country because of all the guns. We are awash in guns. And guns get into the wrong hands. They particularly get into the hands of angry young men who use them to commit horrific crimes like this. It happens day after day. I wrote a piece about gun violence in New York City a few years ago, and I had to fact check to be sure I got the right 2-year-old toddler
Ugh.
who had just been killed in a crossfire, because there had been several. I
Mhm.
mean, this is unacceptable to me. If we can't get rid of the guns, we certainly have to have far greater gun safety programs. We have to be sure that parents are locking up guns, that guns are, the ammunition is kept away from the gun, that there are safety locks to keep them away from children.
Mhm.
And we have to teach nonviolence to our children. We have to teach nonviolent methods of solving problems. Because solving problems with gun violence is never going to be the answer. It's going
Mhm.
to just devastate families and devastate communities.
Mhm.
We have to get rid of this idea that we have in what I call thug culture, that gun violence is cool, that it's manly, that it's a hallmark of being a man. We have to have men stepping in and raising boys. And if, I'm a big advocate in my book Swagger about men stepping in just to help out with a boy who may not be your own son, because
Mhm.
we have far too many fatherless sons in this culture. And if boys don't have a strong male role model, they're going to look at Snoop Dogg or 50 Cent or Eminem
Mhm.
or any of these guys who preach that violence is cool in their music or rape is cool, as they do in their music. And I have the lyrics in my book if you don't believe me.
Oh, I've read
Uh,
them. They're stunning, and
they're horrific. Right.
they're.
But the good news is, and there is tremendous good news in my book as well. The good news is that any man who's listening to this, if you take on your sister's kid or your neighbor's kid, or you join the Big Brothers of America program, or through your church or synagogue or mosque, you get involved in mentoring a boy once a week, once every 2 weeks, there are tremendous benefits that flow to that young man. And you may not think you're a great role model. You may have made mistakes in your life. Well, guess what? We all have. You don't have to be perfect. But if you take a boy out and you throw a ball around with him and you talk about your values, and you talk about even mistakes you've made and what you've learned from it. You talk about how to respect women. You talk about how to solve problems without violence. You are going to have a tremendous impact on that young man. I know, because my fiance is a big brother. He's done it with a young man in our community. It's had tremendous results. I've studied the Big Brothers program in particular. They have demonstrably positive results. There are studies about it. The kids are less likely to drink and do drugs and be violent. And the kids themselves just have an outpouring of love for their big brothers. It's just a tremendously positive program. So, boys love their moms, but they emulate their dads. And if they don't have a dad in the picture, they are just desperate for a man who will love them and who will impart values to them.